Hey guys, John here with RealTruck.com. Today we're going to install the AMP Research PowerStep running boards onto our Ram project truck. We have everything we need here to get this installed onto our truck. It comes complete with the running boards, our motor linkage, idler linkages for both the passenger and driver side, our motors, our controller, our hardware kit, and our wiring harness to wire up the motors and the really cool LED lights that go on the running boards. Let's get this on the truck. First thing to do is to install these reinforcement brackets. What you're going to do is come under the truck and look for this spot. There should be one in the front and one in the rear both. And we're going to take our reinforcement bracket, we'll put it up here to line it up with the factory holes. And then there's a hole that in the reinforcement bracket we're going to drill through into the body panel of the truck. Okay, we've got our hole drilled. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and install this. And I'm going to show you a neat little trick to keep this in place so that it doesn't drop down in there while we're trying to install it. Now what I did is I just took a small zip strip, or you can use like a wire bread tie, string, whatever you want to put on there. Zip strip is easy, simple. And what we do is just slide this back in here. And that helps us to be able to hang on to that so that we don't lose it. And then we're going to take our rivet tool and we're going to put our rivet in through that hole that we drilled. Then we'll take our rivet nuts and we'll go ahead and insert those. I just use a small hammer. Just tap it into place. And then we have this tool for doing these rivets. It's just basically something like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that on here, and then it just screws in to the rivet itself. That tool over to this side and do this one. Alright guys, that takes care of the installation on this one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to all four corners of our truck where you'll see this same type of cutout situation. We're going to do the same thing to the other three. Now that we've got our rivet nuts in place and everything secured, we got all the other three done. The next thing we need to do is, you can see that bracket that we put in there, that lip that we had our zip tie through, we need to push that back out of the way so that our linkages don't hit it and it doesn't interfere with them. Okay, got that out of the way. So next thing we're going to do is get ready to start putting our linkages on. We have here our handy dandy little template that comes with our kit. And what this is basically for, just follow the instructions on the template. It tells you where and how to bend this to make it fit. And what this is for is to help us with our bolts that we need to put in, because on some trucks you need to drill some holes in this bottom lip in order for the linkage to actually fit on. So I'm going to show you how you would do this. Go ahead and follow the bend instructions and then line it up on your rivet nuts, and you go ahead and pull it over around in place. And you can see how when you bend it, it fits to the body of the vehicle. And then on the other side of this, there's some markings on here that tell you where to drill the holes. Fortunately for us, we got lucky and this truck already has the holes in the body pinch lip, so we don't have to drill anything. but I wanted you guys to know how to use this thing in case your truck didn't have these. As you guys can notice, right here is the slots where the bolts, where this will slide over the bolts. These two down here are the two that we're going to bolt through our pinch lip on our body that I just showed you how to use that template to make. Now that we've got everything set, we can go ahead and start to put our linkages on. And with these, you can go ahead and start the bolts on the front. You can start both bolts. When we get to the back one, it's a little bit different, and I'll show you how to do the back one when we get back there. Once you have those started, go ahead and grab your linkage arm. Now, something that you want to remember when you're putting these linkages on, first of all, the one with the motor goes up in the front. Also, if you can see this little jog right here where the board will actually mount to this, that little jog should face the back, and then the back one will face the front. And that's how you know you got them on the right side of the truck. So go ahead and slide this up on here. This one, we're kind of lucky, we can go ahead and screw these in a little bit further, which will actually help us. And it's just a little bit less wrenching we'll have to do once we start to tighten this up. And there, we've got that on there. Now we'll go ahead and take our two little bolts, start these out here. Once these bolts are tight, we'll go ahead and take a Torx and we'll tighten down these ones on the outside. And there you go. If everything went according to plan, everything lined up, tightened up, still have free movement on our linkage arm. So we're good to go on this front one. So let's go put the back one on. Now, on this idler, which is what the rear one is called, if you look in your instructions, the front one will tell you motor linkage. The rear one will say idler linkage. Well, this is called the idler. This is the rear one. Now, if you look at this, you can see that there's three holes. Well, actually two holes, one here at the top, one here at the bottom, and then a notch out in the center. Okay, on this, what we're going to do is for this side of the truck, we're going to use the center, and this, what you're looking at would be the top hole, is where our bolts are going to be. So this one we can go ahead and start, which you can see right up here that we've already gone ahead and started that bolt into that slot where it's going to go. So, and the easiest way to remember is that it's the hole towards the front of the truck. So once that's up on there, we can go ahead and slide our idler up in place. Get our other bolt started on this side. Then we'll go ahead and start our pinch lip bolts out here. We'll go ahead and come in here and we'll tighten this one up inside here. Make sure that our arm still has free, easy movement and travel, which it does, so we're good there. So that's pretty much how you get your linkages installed. The next thing we're going to do is we'll go ahead and put the ones on the other side of the truck. They install exactly the same way as these did. Now that we've got our arms attached on both sides of our truck, it's time to go ahead and install the motors. And as you can see here, these are the motors that go on. They attach with three hex-headed bolts. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our cover on here, because we've got to make sure that's on there to keep the crud and stuff from getting in there and damaging our gears. Then we'll take our motor and we'll attach it on here. Now, just so you guys know, you may have to move the arm a little bit to get that in place, but you'll actually be able to feel it once it gets in the spot where it's supposed to go. Then just take the screws and get them started. A little bit of a tip for you here: don't tighten these down until you've got them all started, because You may have to move things around a little bit to get the holes lined up right. Okay, those are all started. We'll go ahead and snug these down. And I say snug because literally you don't want to tighten these, because this is all plastic materials and it could crack. So don't just wrench on it, just get them snug. Alright, that's all there is to installing the motor. Now we're going to go ahead and start hooking up our wiring. We've got our motors attached and everything down below. So the first thing we want to do is to install our control unit, and we got to find a place to put that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it right down here, attach it right onto that wire bundle, and use the provided zip ties. And we'll go ahead and start our wiring process. We'll plug this into our controller. Then we'll take our fuse out of our fuse holder. We'll just lay that up here to the side for now. And the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and attach our wires, our positive and negative wires, to the battery. Alright, now that that's attached, the next step is to go ahead and run our trigger wire. And our trigger wire are these purple wires here. And what we're going to do is we're going to run them through the firewall down here underneath. There's a rubber boot down here, guys, that's really hard to see, but it's there. And what you want to do is go ahead and take a razor knife or something like that, make a slit in that rubber boot, and take some electrical tape. We'll tape the ends of these together, feed it through and into the inside of the cab, where we'll go in and collect the other end so that we can hook these up to our door triggers. So now that we've got our trigger wires pulled through our firewall panel, the next thing we have to do is wire them into the control box. But in order to do that, we've got another component box in the way that we need to take out. A few screws to hold it in. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out and get that down out of our way so that we can get these wires hooked up. So now that we've got everything down and out of our way where we can actually get to our connectors, I've taken that component out of the side over here. There's one screw at the top. The easiest way to see it is to pull the panel that's here off so you can see to get in there to take that bolt out of the top. And then the two on the side that are up underneath here on the side of it, take them loose and the whole thing comes out of your way. The next thing that you need to do is go ahead and what I did is I just went ahead and disconnected all of my wires from the body control module to bring them down here where they're a little easier to get to and work with, so that way we can get our trigger wires hooked up. And that's our next step. Now if you look at the trigger wires, you can see on the trigger wires that there's, you probably can't see them real good here, but if you look at the ones that you have, you can see that they're colors on the trigger wires. There's one that's solid purple, purple and gray, purple and yellow, and purple and white. These will correspond to the correct ones on your wiring harness, so you just got to match them up. Follow the instructions. They'll tell you where which connector has which color wire that you'll need to apply it to. The next step is then to go ahead and start hooking these wires up. So let's get that done and start putting this thing back together. We've got all of our wires hooked up for our trigger wires. Got our plugs plugged back into our module. Now the next step is to go ahead and put this one back in. And once we get this back in, we'll hook it back up, put all this stuff together, and then we're ready to start running wires to our boards and to our LED lights. Now that we've got our signal wires all hooked up inside the truck, it's time to go ahead and run our wiring for our board motors and for our lights. These are where our motors will plug in. These will be for our LED lights for our boards. So what you want to do is make sure that you have the longest of these two wires run to the other side, And then it's just a matter of finding a nice comfortable spot to run them down through the engine compartment to underneath the truck. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll get this truck up in the air and start hooking it up. Now that we've got our wires all run, the next step here is to go ahead and plug our motor in. And that's kind of because of the rubber gasket seal on there to keep the muck and yuck out of your connection. It's kind of a little stiff going in there, so make sure you get it pushed up really well and you actually hear it snap in to where it goes. Okay, so we've got that on. The next thing we're going to do here then is go ahead and we're going to get our tape measure and a marking pin, and we're going to go ahead and mark out where we're going to put our LED lights on here. When we go to measure this for our lights, what we want to do is measure at the lip of the fender up here. So we'll attach our tape there, and we want to come back here, and on the front light we're looking at 22 inches, which will put it right here by this weld mark. So we'll go ahead and put some mark right here, and then we'll go ahead and attach our tape measure up in here to hold it in place, or if you got somebody that can give you a hand holding it. And then what we're going to measure off now is for the back one, and that one will be 64 3/4, and that puts us right here. Now that we've got that marked out, the next thing to do is go ahead and get our drill these out, and install our rubber grommets. Alright, now we've got everything ready to go, ready to drill this out. What you need is a 9/32 drill bit for your holes. So go ahead and get your 9/32 and start popping holes. Now that we've got the holes drilled out, we'll go ahead and install our rubber grommets. What you want to do is use some kind of a lubricant or something on there to help those slide in there better, and then you won't have to fight with them so much. Alright, now that we've got our grommet in there, go ahead and put some kind of lubrication on this part of this wire so that it'll slide through easy and won't pull your grommet out. Take this light, and what I like to do is just set them right below where the lip rolls into the door area, and just push them up on there. And make sure you push them up really tight and good, and kind of just work them back and forth to make sure that tape sticks real well. Now your kit comes with these heat shrink butt connectors. We'll go ahead and put those on there. Alright, now we've got those all crimped down and secure. The next thing we want to do is just take our heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use a lighter, just don't use it out on the wires. Make sure you stay on the connector. Alright, now that we've got our lights installed, we've got our wires all run, it's time for the zip strip. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go and get our wires in some nice comfortable places underneath the truck here along the frame rail, and just put some zip strips on them to hold them in place so they're not flopping around or hanging down where they'll get caught up on anything. So we'll do that, and then it's time to put the boards on. Time to put the boards on. So what we're going to do is that on the bottom of these boards, you can see this thing right here that slides back and forth where you bolt in. That actually will sit down into a slot right here in the arm for your board. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that up there and get that lined up. Now then, just so you guys know, it's usually a good idea not to tighten these all the way up. Make sure you leave them loose, so that way when you get the bolts on the other end, you can slide this whole board back and forth till you get it adjusted where it's centered. And what I do is I just measured on this end and on the other end. Get it somewhere close. And we'll go do the other side, and then we'll let this down and take a look at how these things work. Alright guys, everything's hooked up, ready to go. Brought the truck over here to show you how these things work. All you gotta do is open the door, down they come, lights come on so you can see your steps at night. Works with both the front and the rear doors so that you don't have to worry about your backseat passengers. So until next time, happy motoring.